If you haven't done so already, this is probably a good time to save. What we're going to work on next is adding our buttons and starting to do some coding, and I'm also going to show you a couple little shortcuts that I like to use when programming. So I'm going to simply save this, and we'll save this as colors. And what I'm going to do next is go to my rectangle tool. And if you notice, I have these nice little guides here. So I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to hold on my shift key and make a smaller little square here. What I want to do right now is I want this to have the red color that we used earlier. Now, how do we find out what that is? I'm going to simply move my playhead. And while I have our little button here selected, I'm going to click on the color. I'm going to come right here to the eyedropper. And I'll click right on the red. And what I want to do now, instead of calling this rectangle 2, I'm going to double click here. And I'm going to call this red, just because I want to treat this as a button later. I'm just going to call it _BTN. Now, I'm going to introduce you to a little shortcut that I like to use. I'm not going to create all the other buttons just yet, mainly because I find it a lot easier to get one button to do exactly what I want it to do, and then just constantly duplicate that. So what I want to do is right-click on our little red shape here. Let's come down to Open Actions for Red button. So now we have all of these actions we can add, and we're going to simply double click on click, and we want to go to stop at, which basically means we want it to go to a particular part on the playhead and then simply stop. Now by default, it's telling us that it's going to go to 1 second and stop. Okay, now what we want to do is make sure it actually goes to our label. So the way we're going to do that, simply highlight sort of 1000 here. We'll do open quote, close quote, and inside here, we'll simply type red. Okay? Now, to see if this actually works, what we're going to do is drag our playhead back to the beginning. And we're going to test out our movie. We'll simply do Command Return. Let's Control Enter on PC. Now, one small problem. Everything automatically played and then just stopped at the end. Well, it's not exactly what we want, but we can at least test to see if our button works. So if we click on the red, instantly we are at red, which is what we want. So let's go back here and we'll jump back to Animate. And I'm going to click right down on my timeline here. And there's a little box that says Auto Play. We're going to uncheck that for now. We'll test our movie again, Command Return. And so now it's stopped at the very beginning. And if we click on red, it goes to where it needs to go to, right to red. So we now have that working correct. Let's go ahead and add our other buttons. Now the trick that I like to do is simply hold down my Option key, Alt on PC, click and drag over a second little square here. And if you note, we have a duplicate layer as well as duplicate layers here. So instead of this being red button copy, we'll call this yellow. And to get our yellow color, we'll move our playhead right to the yellow label. And while our new yellow button is selected, we'll go over to color, grab our eyedropper, and we have that set. And last but not least, we're going to right click and come down to Open Actions for Yellow button. And so all of our code is here. So the only thing we need to change is what label it's going to go to. So it's yellow, so we'll go to our yellow label. Let's close this and we'll test our movie. Command Return, Control Enter on PC, yellow and red. All right. And I'm going to duplicate this once more. Hold on my Option key, and that's Alt on PC. We'll want this to be blue button, so we'll go ahead and type that in. Doing this one a little bit out of order. Not that it matters. The main thing is, by the end of this, we want to make sure that it's coded correctly and it's visually correct, so our end user knows what they're supposed to be clicking on. So let's go to our blue label. Let's click here for our color. Let's grab a little eyedropper, a little sample color there. All right. And last but not least, we'll make one last little button. And this will be for our home. So grab our sample. And let's right click. And we're going to call this home. All right. Make sure we get all these names correct and don't have any weird copies. All right, so if we test this, Command return, Control Enter on PC. So there is our colors, and we have this set up. And it may seem like it's a little basic, but think of it this way. If this were a website about pets, perhaps you could have one section for dogs, one section for cats, goldfish, and turtles. So you can keep things going pretty simple just by having very basic labels and getting one button programmed and just duplicating that and just changing out exactly what the code is telling you. You'll be able to save a lot of time, and checking it each step of the way is going to make sure you don't have any headaches in the end.